Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Yevamot. We are up to Perek Tetvav, Mishnah Gimel. Today's Mishnayot should be Leilu Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana, Ranbayev, Eliyahu ben Burcha, Israelo ben Chana bat Miriam, Menuchatam began Eden, Amen. And Leavdi ben Chaim Nechaim with the Refuah Shelemav, Daniel Shalom ben Rosa, and Mariana Miriam Chaya bat Tamara, Betor Shah Chulei Israel. The Mishnah continues to discuss a woman who testified that her husband died. Usually, once a man dies, his wife may collect the money promised in her ketubah from his estate. As we have learned, we spoke about it in chapter 4, Mishnah 3. This refers to a document a man writes when he marries, in which he promises to grant his wife a sum of money, usually 200 zuz, when he divorces her or dies. This Mishnah cites a dispute whether a woman who testified that her husband died may collect her ketubah based on that testimony. Bet Shammai Amrim, Bet Shammai say, Tinaseh v'titol ketubata. A woman who testifies that her husband died may remarry and she may collect her ketubah. Since she has believed that her husband is dead, as we learned in Mishnah 1, she may collect her ketubah, which is a widow's right. Bet Hillel Omrim, but Bet Hillel say, Tinaseh v'lo titol ketubata. She may remarry, but she may not collect her ketubah. This is because the testimony of a wife is usually not valid testimony. The sages allowed us to rely on her testimony only in order to allow her to remarry. However, in order to claim the ketubah, she has to produce two valid witnesses that her husband is dead, as for every matter of monetary law. The Torah states that matters of monetary law must be decided based on the testimony of two valid witnesses in Sefer Dvarim, chapter 19, verse 15. We learned in Mishnah 1 that in order to prevent women from being unable to remarry even though their husband had died, the sages allowed the leniency of accepting a woman's testimony about her husband's death. However, they approved this leniency only to allow her to remarry. Her testimony cannot be relied upon for anything else. Bet Shammai challenged Bet Hillel. Ambula and Bet Shammai said to Bet Hillel, Hitartem erva chamura. You have permitted the serious matter of a forbidden relationship, allowing a married woman to remarry based on her testimony. Lo tatiru et hamamon hakal. Will you not rely on it to permit the less serious matter of money, granting her the ketubah? If her husband is actually alive, her remarriage is adultery, which is a forbidden relationship punishable by karet. However, collecting the ketubah unlawfully involves only the less serious sin of theft. If we rely on her testimony to let her remarry, we should certainly rely on her testimony to let her collect the ketubah. Bet Hillel respond, Ambula and Bet Hillel said to Bet Shammai, Matzinu shena achim nichnasim lanachala al pia. We find that the brothers and other heirs of her husband cannot come into the inheritance of his property based on her word. Her husband's heirs cannot inherit his property unless two valid witnesses testify that he is dead. So it's clear that even though her testimony is relied upon to let her remarry, it is not relied upon for matters of money. Therefore, her testimony cannot be relied upon to collect the ketubah. In reply, Bet Shammai give a different reason for their ruling that she can claim her ketubah based on her own testimony. Ambula and Bet Shammai said to Bet Hillel, V'lo miseva ketubatah nilmod. But we can learn from the text of the ketubah document that a woman may collect the money of the ketubah based on her own testimony. Shu kotev la, for her husband writes to her in the ketubah, She'im tinas'i la'acher tidli ma shekatuv lichi. When you will be eligible to marry another man, you can take what is written for you in this document. So the collection of the ketubah depends on her ability to remarry. So although her testimony cannot be relied upon for monetary matters, her husband agreed to give her the ketubah once she's allowed to remarry. Since when she testifies that her husband is dead, she has given permission to remarry, she can collect the ketubah as well. Bet Hillel then retracted their original ruling and began to rule like Bet Shammai. Now, just as the sages allowed, that is the end of Mishnah Gimel, just as the sages allowed a woman to remarry based on her own testimony that her husband died, they allowed her to remarry based on the testimony of a person who is usually not accepted as a witness in a court of law. For example, a woman or a slave. This Mishnah Dala, discusses who is believed and who was not believed to testify in this matter. The Mishnah begins, Hakol ne'emanim la'ida. Everyone is believed to testify for a wife that her husband died, even people yet usually not accepted as witnesses in court. chutz mechamota, except for the following 5 women: her mother-in-law. A mother-in-law is suspected of lying because she often hates her daughter-in-law, since she knows that her husband will eventually inherit her, and her daughter-in-law will then spend all the money that the mother-in-law worked to earn. Ubat chamota, her mother-in-law's daughter, meaning her husband's sister. The husband's sister often hates the wife because she knows that her brother, the husband, will eventually inherit the family's wealth, and his wife will then spend it all. V'tzarata, her co-wife. Co-wives often hate each other because each deprives the other of some intimacy with the husband. Therefore, if a woman testifies that her husband died, she is permitted to remarry, but her co-wife is not. We will discuss this further in the next 2 Mishnah, B'ezrat Hashem bli neder. Vivimta, her sister-in-law, the wife of her husband's brother, the wife of the Avam. She often hates her sister-in-law because she fears that if one of their husbands dies childless and his brother does Zibum, she and her sister-in-law will become co-wives. Ubat Bala, and her stepdaughter. Her stepdaughter often hates her stepmother for taking the place of her own mother. Since these women often hate the wife whom they are testifying, they are not believed to testify that her husband died because they are suspected of lying in order to cause her to remarry unlawfully, so that when their husband returns, she will become subject to the penalties that are given to women who remarries while her husband is still alive. And like we learned in chapter 10, Mishnah 1, if a woman remarries based on information that her husband died and he then returns, she is subject to a number of serious penalties. However, these 5 women are believed if they bring the same wife a get from overseas and claim that it is valid. If a man sends a get to his wife from overseas with a messenger, the get is valid only if the messenger testifies that it was written and signed properly. It says in chapter 1, Mishnah 1 of Masechet Gitin. If any of these 5 women bring a get from overseas for their daughter-in-law, sister-in-law, etc., they are believed to testify that the get is valid, as it says in Masechet Gitin, chapter 2, Mishnah 7. The Mishnah states why they are believed in that case, but not to say that the husband died. Ma ben get limita. What is the difference between a get, for which these women are believed, and the death of the husband, for which they are not believed? Why are they believed if they testify that her get is valid? Should we not suspect there too that they are lying to cause her to remarry unlawfully? The Mishnah says, Sha'kitav mochiach, in the case of a get, the written document, the get, shows that they are telling the truth. The get that the messenger carries is the true evidence that this man divorced his wife, and it is based on the get that the wife is permitted to remarry. The messenger must simply state that the get is valid, and even these women are believed to say this minor piece of testimony. We do not suspect that these women would go so far as to forge a get. Therefore, the get itself testifies about the divorce. However, when a person testifies about a man's death, we have only the witness's word to trust. Since these 5 women are suspected of hating the wife, we cannot rely on their testimony. The Mishnah now discusses cases where there is conflicting testimony about a man's death. Ed Omer met when he said, if one witness says that a man died and his wife remarried or was simply given permission to remarry based on the testimony, Uba Achev Amar lo met, and then another witness came and said that that man had not died, Harezu lo tetzeh, the wife does not leave the state of being permitted to remarry. Although the sages accepted the testimony of a single witness who says that a man died, a witness who says that he did not die does not have that same credibility. Therefore, only the first witness is believed and the wife does not lose her permission to remarry. By Torah law, evidence usually requires 2 witnesses. In a case where a single witness is believed, such as here, where a single witness is believed to testify that the husband died, that single witness has the credibility of 2 witnesses. So if another witness later testifies that the husband did not die, he is not believed because he is only a single witness, while the witness who came before him has the credibility of 2 witnesses. As the Gemara explains it in Masechet Yevamot, page 117b. However, if the court has not yet accepted the testimony of the first witness, meaning they had not yet ruled that she may remarry, that witness does not yet have the credibility of 2 witnesses, and the testimony of another witness will be believed to contradict him, like we will see bli neder b'ezrat Hashem in the next Mishnah. However, if one witness said that the husband died, and then 2 witnesses said that he did not die, afal pishin he said tetzeh. Even if his wife had already remarried, she must leave her new husband. Since 2 witnesses have more credibility than 1 witness, their testimony is believed over that of the original witness, and she loses her permission to remarry. Although the single witness has the credibility of 2 witnesses when compared to another single witness, he has less credibility than 2 actual witnesses. This is how Rashi explains it in Masechet Yevamot, page 117b. Shnayim omrim met, Vedomer lo met, so too if 2 witnesses say that he died, and then 1 witness said that he did not die, afal pishon niset tinaseh, even if she had not yet remarried, she may remarry, because a single witness is not believed to contradict the testimony of two witnesses. And that is the end of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.